even more dramatic moment in Argentina in 2002 crisis, where the government simply confiscated people's savings. Vitalik was the main, he created Ethereum and he brought on 8 other co-founders around, 2013, 2014. The Ethereum mainnet was launched in 2015. And then the DAO was one of the most popular projects at the time. It attracted millions of ETH. In the middle of kind of the fundraising phase, it got hacked. And so those who were watching the contract started realizing, oh no, like there's ETH that's coming out of the smart contract. And they realized that, yeah, somebody had found a bug in the smart contract program and we're exploiting the bug and we're stealing ETH. So, it was like a mad rush to outsmart the hacker. And I write kind of in detail in my book kind of what the bug was and like all the efforts to hack the hacker. And they partially succeeded, but then the hacker found like another way around it. And it was like all hands on deck for the Ethereum community. Like everyone kind of joined in trying to stop this from happening. But what's relevant about this and made a mark in Ethereum was that it was seen as a vital threat to Ethereum itself, because a large portion of Ethereum at the time was stuck in this smart contract. There was a big controversy, a very big debate in the Ethereum community where there was a decision to be made on whether to let the hack continue, like the chain continue with this event and with kind of all this ETH in the hands of this malicious actor, or there was another option, which was to fork the chain, which is a concept that means basically you make a copy of the chain where you go back in time to before the hack happened, and then all the miners had to basically choose which chain they would support. Ethereum leadership basically decided that they would hard fork the Ethereum chain to erase this DAO hack. Finally, this dream of an actual alternative financial system was coming true for the first time ever. Like this was not possible before.
Internet of finance.
I was so excited to see that. But to my surprise, nobody was paying attention. I was like, am I crazy? Like, what's happening? Why is nobody was covering it? Not even like crypto media, like CoinDesk, they weren't really paying attention to DeFi. There was no coverage. So I decided that, I left Bloomberg in January of 2019 to finish writing The Infinite Machine, and because I wanted to become an independent writer. And so I decided I would start a DeFi focused newsletter on the side. My main job would be to be a freelance writer, and I would have this newsletter focused on DeFi. But yeah, then, having a daily newsletter started taking up all of my time, and I saw that it was really taking off and that it could be a real business. Like I added subscriptions, and then people were reaching out to me to sponsor the newsletter. So I decided to just go all in on the Defiant and make it a business and make it my full-time job. And so yeah, I was really, I had the privilege of, leading the Defiant, just write about the rise of DeFi from a time when it was like barely known. Like I think like the term DeFi was coined in 2019. Like people didn't even have a name. Lo pasé muy bien acá hablando en Digital Dunya. Creo que la entrevista fue súper entretenida. Así que creo que cualquier persona en Crypto y Web3 debería mirar este podcast para aprender más de las personas que están construyendo y aportando a esta industria.
Welcome to Digital Dunya. Today we are going to talk with someone I really admire, and I've been following her work since 2019. First of all, she was a reporter at Bloomberg. The second thing about her is she wrote an amazing book, The Infinite Machine, Ethereum Story. I really like that book. It actually gave me a lot more insight because my journey with Ethereum started a little bit later than 2014-15. So it was kind of a treasure trove for me to go and understand what had happened 3-4 years ago in the history. And the way it is written is really nice. So must read for everyone who is interested in Ethereum. Sorry, this introduction is going to be long because I just really admire her work. The third thing is she's founder of the Defiant, amazing publication. They do really good content in regards to DeFi and Web3 in general. Web3 in general. Welcome to the show, Cami. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for the great, for the detailed intro, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I've thought about what would your intro be, and I was like, I'm just going to go by heart. So I had nothing written and prepared. I just winged it. So
Nice. Well, it worked out.
So, Cami, what we generally do is like, with Digital Dunya, we want to understand and know about your story, right? And that includes everything. So if we start with where did you grow up and where did you do your university?
Yeah, sure. So I'm originally from Santiago, Chile, in South America. I did most of my school there. I did live in Miami briefly when I was a teenager, but did school, university there in Chile, um, and studied journalism. And then I went to one of Chile's biggest newspapers. I did an internship there, and then stayed at the kind of international news section of the newspaper called El Mercurio. Um, when I was there, I realized that I wanted to uh, do something else, or that I wanted to look beyond kind of the borders of Chile, the small country, and hope to someday work at a big US based media company. And I thought, to do that, then I need to get a degree from a prestigious US university, because they're not going to hire someone, a journalist from a Chilean university. So that's, yeah, I applied for different journalism schools in the US, and got into one of the top journalism schools here, where I'm based now. So yeah, went to Northwestern University for journalism. And I guess I can stop there. You asked me kind of like where I grew up and studied. So yeah, basically did school and university in Chile, worked briefly in Chile for a newspaper, and then did a postgraduate degree, a master's degree at Northwestern University, where I got into business journalism.
That's so amazing, right? And this is what inspires me. Everyone has got such a unique and interesting journey in Web3. And I enjoy listening to that because I feel a really strong connect with that. Just for timeline, which year did you move to US and join your postgrad?
This was when was this? 2013.
Wow. So just when
Or 20 no 2011. 2011. Yeah,
so that's even better
Mhm.
because I connect everything with either Bitcoin journey or Ethereum journey. So
Yeah.
I see so you arrived in New York around 2011 when Bitcoin was just getting
Yeah.
attention, right?
Mhm.
In the right spaces.
That's right. Yep.
So then going forward, you finish your graduation, and I'm assuming you joined Bloomberg at some point. Was
That's
that
right.
right?
Yeah. So Northwestern is in Chicago, and like I mentioned there, I discovered business journalism, which is something I never thought I'd be interested in, because I went to study journalism because I am interested in writing and telling stories, and like the more kind of literary, like non-numbers side of things. But I was paying a lot of money. I took on like a student loan to go study in the US, and I thought, I better learn something I don't already know. And so I decided to just like study, like take a business journalism class, and really enjoyed it, and was really surprised. And I thought, like, these stories about like following the money really gives you a very like powerful tool to write impactful stories. And so I decided that's what I wanted to focus on in my career. And so I applied for an internship at Bloomberg. And yeah, that's how I got into Bloomberg. I started in the emerging markets team. It's a bit of a funny story how I actually got hired, because it was
Tell us.
yeah, it was a 3-month internship. And during the 3 months, I always thought I was doing a good job. Like I never got any negative feedback. I did everything I was told to, and I thought I was going above and beyond because like I was extremely motivated to stay at Bloomberg. Like I had gone to the US with that purpose, to be hired for like a big media company there. I wasn't gonna go back to Chile, kind of defeated after like taking on this huge debt to like go study at a like fancy graduate school. So it's like I needed to get hired after the internship, and so I thought I was doing great. And then from the internship class, they pick a small number of interns to get hired. And when that time came, I saw kind of all my like fellow interns getting calls about whether they had made it or not. And when I got the call, they told me I hadn't been selected as part of the hirees. And I was just devastated. I didn't understand what had happened. So I slept on it, and I decided I wasn't gonna I wasn't just gonna accept that. So I went to my team leader and told him, hey, like you never like gave me any negative feedback. I did a great job. I think you should hire me. Like I don't understand why I wasn't selected. And he said, well, I didn't really have a say in the process. I don't know what happened, blah blah. And I said, well, you need to go then and speak with the internship team and tell them. And he's like, okay, I'll do my best. And in the end, like he was able to get me like an like a 3-month kind of contract, like trial, like additional trial period. And after that, they finally hired me for real in the emerging markets team. So that was a really kind of stressful time, but I'm really happy that I didn't just accept that I wasn't hired. And after that, I stayed at Bloomberg for 8 years, did really well. And my team leader and like managing editor even, told me after that, like, I can't believe we almost didn't hire you. So it was really worth taking that chance.
It is so amazing, Cami. Like, I know you have done a lot of amazing works, right? And you will do a lot of amazing work. But what really inspires me is this kind of moments in life when you get knocked down. And as a human being, all of us have the ability to stand up and fight back. Sometimes what I have seen in my personal experience that people don't do that. And those who do that, they carve a very different path for themselves. So kudos to you. That was so interesting. And thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course. Yeah, happy to.
So, Kemi, now let's move to Web3, right? So what I like, you're an amazing storyteller, by the way. So I would love to listen about how did you first figure out Bitcoin back then, because I know that was the only thing around 2012, 13, 14. Yeah. Ethereum came after that. So, sorry, I'm taking long because I'll give you all the different angles that I would like to hear. Is sure. The first point when you discovered Bitcoin, what were you doing and how did you feel about it?
Sure. Okay. So, like I was telling you before, I was hired at Bloomberg in the emerging markets team. I was in the New York office for a while, and then they sent me as the market reporter in Buenos Aires, Argentina, in 2013. And so, fascinating job, by the way, to be a market reporter in Argentina. Like, it's just such a fascinating country, really crazy, just like wild what happens down there. And so, the big story there was, from a market's perspective, was just the exorbitant inflation that Argentines deal with. And the currency controls that result from having a weakening peso. So, I covered that story from many different angles. And one angle was that there was a growing Bitcoin ecosystem in Argentina because people there were using Bitcoin to protect their savings and their investments from inflation and from currency controls, from not being able to convert their local currency, their peso, to dollars or any other, stronger currency. So I thought this was super interesting. A friend told me, I remember sent me a message, and he was like, knowing that I was reporting on the Argentine market, he said, hey, like there's this weird, internet money called Bitcoin that apparently Argentines are really kind of crazy about. And I thought, wow, that's so interesting. And so I started investigating it, and realized, I remember kind of being very puzzled by it in the beginning, because as a reporter, as a financial reporter, you write about banks, about investment funds, just companies, and there's like a kind of very similar process you follow, which is you look at a company website, you look at the team, you try to call up, the highest person you can find, or at least like the press office who can contact you to the right source to understand the, whatever problem, whatever story you're trying to cover. And so I was trying to follow that process. So it's like, okay, what's the Bitcoin website? And obviously, there's no Bitcoin website, there's no company, there's no press office, there's no CEO. So I was like, what is this? And, and then obviously, started talking to experts about it, and just understanding that it's, not one company, not one country. It's just like this decentralized network that enables a permissionless currency, like this internet money, but that nobody controls. And with my experience living in Argentina and writing about Argentina, it just struck me as something that was really revolutionary to have this, this money that nobody can take away. Because I had lived currency controls myself. Like I was earning my own salary in Argentine pesos. So, the first thing they told me when I got to the Argentina office was, first thing you do when you get your salary, you make your, rent payment, whatever like big expenses you have, and then you convert your pesos to dollars. That's like what everyone in the Bloomberg Argentina office was doing and told me to do. And so I was doing that up until Cristina Fernandez, the president at the time, just one day just banned dollar purchases. And I was like covering that. I was like sending headlines for Bloomberg. And then after that, after writing this story, I was like, wait, actually I can't buy dollars anymore. And it was just wild. Like I went to like my bank, I don't know, like my bank account online. And yeah, like the option of like transferring to my US dollar account just like simply was not there anymore. So, just like experiencing that firsthand and knowing that, okay, now I'm stuck with my pesos, and knowing that I'll lose 25% of the value of whatever I have in pesos by the end of the year, like 25% annual inflation at the time. It was just wild to me that a government could just go and kind of tell you what to do or what not to do with your money. And so, yeah, that was kind of my experience with like learning about Bitcoin, kind of living through the experience of having a government control what you can do with your money, and then learning for this story about this money that cannot be censored. So yeah, I wrote the story, and by the way, like I had a really hard time convincing my editors that we should write this story. They were like, no, like this is a scam, this is like fake money, whatever. Like they they didn't really kind of know much about it, or it wasn't, kind of like something that Bloomberg would cover very often. But the story did really well. And so they were like, fine, okay, you can write more. but yeah, but actually like that, after that one story in 2013, I was just, after that, I just like continued my market reporting on Argentina and didn't have the opportunity to cover crypto again until 2017. So this was, I stayed in Argentina for 4 years. Then I went to the European stocks team based in Madrid with Bloomberg. Was very, very bored in that job. Nothing, especially after Argentina, like writing about European stocks, like nothing happens. So as soon as I could move to New York to a macro markets team, I took that chance and moved to New York in 2017.
Oh, that because I'm going to break this segment
Sure.
before we get into 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very excited, amused, learning about your journey, and then suddenly it flipped from that excitement to the grave human side to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most people see what their world is. I live in Australia, you're in New York, right? So most people operate from a vantage point of what my life is. That's the base ground. And how do I do anything above it, right? But we forget that there are many humans whose their context is very different. Like what you experience with peso in Argentina, you can buy dollars as a result, without any of your fault. Suddenly you can lose all of your wealth or a portion of it or a big chunk of it, right? And
Yeah.
you have got no control. And I feel I wanted to talk about that point specifically because we need to we need to make people aware that it can wreck lives and it can impact decades of someone's saving, right? So that's
Absolutely.
a big tragedy, and normally we talk about it in passing because we are not impacted by it, but that does not mean that someone else is not impacted by it. And those who are impacted, it could be in across the world, it could be Africa, it could be South America, it could be other part of the world. So how I wanted to ask you this is, what do people feel emotionally when they find something like Bitcoin, which can not only protect their wealth, but it actually helps them protect their livelihood and their years of hard work?
So yeah, I mean, to highlight the point of how, the impact that censorship or government meddling can have on a person's life. Like, I know the Argentina story well, but this happens all over the world. And yeah, in my case, I lived through the kind of the Kirchner era, the Cristina Fernandez era. And yeah, it was constant currency controls and inflation, and that's what people lived with day in and day out. But there was a very even more dramatic moment in Argentina in the 2002 crisis, where the government simply confiscated, confiscated people's savings. They placed a ban on withdrawals from banks, and they converted all because at the time the exchange rate was one peso to $1, which was obviously unsustainable, and they banned any withdrawals, and then they just cut the value of the peso. And so yeah, people's savings were literally slashed, like they with like you said, without having any control over it. So and that happened, and that ruined lives and threw people into poverty. So this kind of interference can, like you say wreck lives, but having censorless money can save lives. So yeah, absolutely. It's what draws me to crypto, the fact that this system exists. And in Argentina, yeah, it's like one of the biggest crypto communities because of this reason. Like, people instantly understands the value of crypto. And right now, I think Argentina is, or at least Buenos Aires, is a place where crypto is just completely mainstream. Like, people there have different apps on their phone that they use stablecoins to make payments, that they save in stablecoins, they get yield in stablecoins, and it's just like very commonplace. Like, it's not something that anyone is even kind of impressed with. Like crypto is just a part of everyday life, and it's because of this reason. Like people in Argentina just, they just get it. You don't need to convince them that, okay, crypto has a use case. Like it happens in the US. Like people say, oh, like crypto is a solution looking for a problem, and it's like you have no idea. Like it literally changes people's lives. So yeah, and besides crypto, like one of my like favorite kinds of stories when I was in Argentina was like all the workarounds that people had to the currency controls. So yeah, they went to Punta del Este in Uruguay, which is across the river from Buenos Aires, to use the ATM machines there and take out dollars there and exchange there. They went to the casinos because when they always like, okay, so they place restrictions on ATMs. So then they went to the casinos, got like poker chips and cashed those out in exchange for dollars. Then I don't know, they had like dollar sniffing dogs in the ferry from Buenos Aires to Punta del Este because there were so many Argentines like trying to game the system that they implemented those money sniffing dogs. It's just insane. So it's like when you place these kind of currency controls, the government is always kind of trying to play whack-a-mole, like trying to fix one problem, and then people will try to like find their way around it. But it's just a massive headache, obviously.
That is so true, and I clearly wanted to make sure that we capture that essence, right? Because as you are aware, our bulk of audience is Indian background or from India, and most of the people still cannot comprehend why do we need this system, right? Because by and large, Indian diaspora living outside, they live in US, Europe, Australia, or UK, Middle East, like Dubai, and India itself, right? So has not experienced this kind of situation. So it's very alien for them to try and connect. Why do we need that? And it's the same thing that we hear again and again, right? Happening all the time. And then it becomes so important to make them aware a possibility of something like this happening. And there are real examples of where this has happened, right? So I wanted to make sure that we highlight and underline this portion really well, because it's really important for all of us.
Absolutely.
So thank you for giving us so much detail into it. Now, as we enter to we are halfway through this, I want to now get into Ethereum. But before you go there, I also want to tell you my experience of Bitcoin in 2013. As I mentioned to you, I've been in TradFi for quite long amount of time. My brother, he was working, he just graduated and started working on trading desk, and he came to me and he took, I think it was 2013 towards the end, and he mentioned to me about Bitcoin. He was trying to trade it on local market over here. And he was like, brother, you need to look into it. I asked him 2 questions, simple, right? Coming from a TradFi background, it was very easy for me to ask him something very basic, and he couldn't answer it. And I shoo him away, and I'm like, get away. This is all scam. Don't talk to me. And then when I started understanding in 2017, I was like it flipped. Once the switch flips, your whole perception, the way you look at things, completely change. So, Cami, moving on to, I want to focus on Ethereum and DeFi, our second half.
Sure.
And this is going to be so interesting again, because my exposure to Ethereum started around DeFi time, right? So DeFi summer is when I actually got really good insight to it. So probably you are the best person to talk about early Ethereum stories. DAO Hack was very crucial part of it. And then obviously there were power struggles at the launch as well, right? So these are the 2 segments. I feel that we tend to move on fast, but we don't understand how important they have been in the history of Ethereum and history of Web3 before we lead to DeFi. So if you can throw us, I am an avid reader, so I read a lot, and that's how I got into crypto. And I've read your book, and I know about firsthand about DAO Hack because of books like yours and Laura Sheen's. So tell us, what is DAO Hack? How did it happen, and what was the solution?
Sure. So the DAO Hack, well, just to put in context, Ethereum, I was interested in Ethereum because it was the first smart contracts blockchain, right? So Bitcoin obviously was the first cryptocurrency, and there were many cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin after it, Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash and others. But Ethereum really innovated because it allowed for Turing complete compute. So, any sort of program could be written on Ethereum, and the network would run that program permissionlessly via smart contracts. So I thought that was a real innovation, and it was driving all the ICO bubble in 2017, which I was covering at Bloomberg, and so I decided to write a book about Ethereum because of that. I thought, wow, like this is the first smart contracts platform. It's like driving all this hype that's happening now in crypto. So whether Ethereum makes it or not, like it's already made history. It's already kind of made an impact in the blockchain industry. And so Ethereum was kind of conceived by Vitalik in kind of 2013, 2014 era. It had 8 co-founders, including Joe Lubin, Anthony Diorio, and Charles Hoskinson. Vitalik was the main, he created Ethereum, and he brought on 8 other co-founders around, 2013, 2014. The Ethereum mainnet was launched in 2015. And people started experimenting on Ethereum right away, creating different dApps. Augur was one of the earlier dApps, and there were like even early attempts at ICOs. And then the DAO was one of the most popular projects at the time. In when was it? 2016. I'm like spacing on the time, but
yes.
2016. So yeah, the DAO was one of the most exciting projects in Ethereum when it was just starting out. And it's funny, like it was called the DAO because DAOs were like a very novel concept. Like it wasn't like today where you have like all sorts of different DAOs. This was kind of the original DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. And the idea is that it was like a decentralized investment fund, basically. So people would pool money in a smart contract, and then token holders would vote on ways to invest that money. That was kind of the original idea. And yeah, it just like very quickly caught on, especially because they had very high profile names attached to it from the Ethereum Foundation, and like everyone who was anyone in Ethereum was involved in the DAO and was contributing to it. So huge, high profile project. It attracted very millions of ETH, and in the middle of it, of kind of the fundraising phase, it got hacked. And so those who were watching the contract started realizing, oh no, like there's ETH that's coming out of the smart contract, and they realized that somebody had found a bug in the program, in the smart contract program, and were exploiting the bug and were stealing ETH. So it was like a mad rush to outsmart the hacker, and I write kind of in detail in my book kind of what the bug was and like all the efforts to hack the hacker, and they partially succeeded, but then the hacker find like another way around it, and it was like all hands on deck for the Ethereum community. Like everyone kind of joined in trying to kind of stop this from happening. But what's relevant about this and kind of made a mark in Ethereum was that it was it was seen as a vital threat to Ethereum itself, because a large portion of Ethereum at the time was stuck in this smart contract. And so the fear was that if now this malicious actor was controlling a large chunk of ETH, then that would be a threat to the network. And there was a big controversy, a very big debate in the Ethereum community, where there was a decision to be made on whether to let the hack continue, like the chain continue with this event, and with kind of all this ETH in the hands of this malicious actor, or there was another option, which was to fork the chain, which is a concept that means basically you make a copy of the chain, where you go back in time to before kind of the hack happened, and then all the miners had to basically choose which chain they would support, the original chain with the hack or the new chain, and there was like I think like a Twitter vote, and it was like more like informal kind of consensus, where Ethereum leadership basically decided that they would hard fork the Ethereum chain to erase this DAO hack.
Sorry, Cami, I'm just going to jump in. Put in exactly the same thing, paraphrase it for our audience.
Mm-hmm.
So hard fork generally applies to, as Cami said, copy paste. Creating a new chain, copy paste. What it means is bringing all the data from past, from the inception to that point, on a new chain, and then all the validators, all the community, genuine people can vote that and start forward contributing to the new copy paste version. And most honest people and the majority of people participating on Ethereum network will not interact with the old network. So ultimately the old network, which is known as Ethereum Classic, becomes a ghost chain. So there is no activity happening on it, and moving forward, all the activity would happen on the new chain. And that, in my understanding, was the fork. Have I summed it up right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's what happened. They decided to do the hard fork, and it was successful in the sense that most miners did choose the new chain, and the market kind of decided, like, the new Ethereum token retained the value, while ETH Classic token was a fraction of the value of Ethereum, and so that's kind of the chain that we have today. But it's very controversial, especially if you follow kind of the values of like blockchain industry, which it's supposed to be. These are immutable, decentralized networks that you can't mess with. So having kind of like Ethereum leadership decide, hey, like, we don't like this hack, let's kind of have a do-over, and get rid of it. It was really controversial, and to this day you have, especially kind of people kind of in the Bitcoin maxi camp, like, really criticize Ethereum for that.
It is I know I'm looking at the time and I'm like a kid in the candy store, because this is, I think, like, we need to document this. And I think with so much content and information floating around, we also, the book is amazing. So a must read for everyone who's interested in history of Ethereum and Web3. I would request, plead you to read Infinite Machine. So, Cami, now moving on to our last quarter is DeFi, and that's where the Defiant comes in as well, right? Your pet, your baby. I think, like, if I know a little bit about Digital Dunya and how I see it for myself, I can imagine how close and how important it is for you. And especially the longer and the bigger it grows, it just becomes so important in your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So break us down. DeFi, how it started, the DeFi summer, and the Defiant, if we can bring this parallel together.
Sure. So DeFi started in, I'd say 2018, 2019, with MakerDAO was kind of the grandfather of DeFi. MakerDAO and DAI, the stablecoin, which I think launched in, was it December of 2017, and then developed 2018. 2019 saw kind of the rise of the lenders like Aave and Compound. Uniswap is like 2019 era, and it was this time that I was finishing the Infinite Machine, and of course, like very much in kind of inside of the Ethereum community, following everything that was happening there, and just saw this this new movement of financial applications built with smart contracts on chain. That were being used in a non-custodial way, that was growing on Ethereum. And I thought it was incredibly exciting because up until that time, crypto was mostly just for trading. Like there was not much else you could do with crypto. And everything else was done in in centralized platforms. Like you would trade on whatever, Coinbase, Kraken, whatever centralized exchange, Binance. If there were any lenders, it was also centralized. And so here with DeFi on Ethereum, finally, there like this dream of an actual alternative financial system was coming true for the first time ever. Like this was not possible before.
Internet of finance.
Yeah. I was so excited to see that. But like, to my surprise, nobody was paying attention. Like, I was like, am I crazy? Like, what's happening? Why is nobody was covering it? Not even like crypto media, like CoinDesk, they weren't really paying attention to DeFi. Like, there was no coverage. And so I decided that, I left Bloomberg in January of 2019 to finish writing the Infinite Machine, and because I wanted to become an independent writer. And so I decided I would start a DeFi-focused newsletter on the side. Like my main job would be to be a freelance writer, and I would have this newsletter focused on DeFi. But yeah, then, having a daily newsletter started taking up all of my time. And I saw that it was really taking off and that it could be a real business. Like I added subscriptions, and then people were reaching out to me to sponsor the newsletter. So I decided to just go all in on the Defiant and make it a business and make it my full-time job. And so, yeah, I was really, I had the privilege of, because of, leading the Defiant, just write about the rise of DeFi from a time when it was like barely known. Like I think like the term DeFi was coined in 2019. Like people didn't even have a name for it. So yeah, that was incredibly exciting. And then, DeFi summer came, and it was when, kind of when Compound launched Comp token. And I remember that day because, like the context was coming out from the ICO era and then the bear market. Tokens had a really bad reputation at the time. It was like, if you have a token, it's a scam. Like, that's kind of where we were at in 2019. And so at the time, there were like contributors to the Defiant. And one of the contributors said, hey, like we should cover this Comp token that Compound is launching today. And I said, sure, but like, I don't really see that it's going to go anywhere. Like it's it sounds like really scammy. Like, what's it going to be? Like a payment system? Like for, I don't know. Like I kind of like played it down. And then like I saw how, I don't remember, but it was like on day one, Comp TVL or Compound TVL went from like, I don't know, a couple thousand to like 100 million or something, like crazy. And then, like to this day, like Sebastian, the contributor, was like, remember Comp? It's like, that's like the biggest I told you so. So yeah, like from there, the DeFi summer really took off with, now everyone had to have a token and there was yield farming and things got really crazy with all the like food token, remember Yam? And yeah, like all of those yield farms and tokens and just like all the craziness of DeFi summer, which just like really, really helped bring liquidity to DeFi, and just test out all these different mechanisms that ultimately, it was like a big casino, but did make DeFi stronger. And yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll stop there because like DeFi history is very long. There's so much to talk about. It's crazy.
I get exactly the same feeling. I felt time has just gone so fast because there's so much I wanted to cover, and I don't think been able to cover even. We've not even scratched it. So this definitely calls in for a next round with you. We know that time with Web3 is generally a lot more faster than TradFi. So we will have to do this. We owe it to a community and people coming on in the system. Now, before we go there, now I want to before we finish off, I want to talk to you about the Defiant, right? Because you've been doing amazing job. I've been reading Defiant for almost ever since you started. So
thank you.
It played like my journey. Okay, this is a fun thing I want to ask you. So every time I talk to someone and who is in crypto, and if they talk about 2011, 13, 14, 15, 16 DAO Hack, 2020 summer, I instantly, it just happens in my mind. By default, I would try and go back to that point of time in my life to see what I was doing and where I was in my journey. And I kind of stopped kicking myself back starting from 2013 when my brother came to me for the first time with Bitcoin and I shooed him away to all so many different incidents. Does it happen with you that you go back in time and relate it with what you were doing back then?
I mean, yeah, because like my life is so tied to crypto, It's like, yeah, it's like I quit Bloomberg to finish writing the Infinite Machine. I started the Defiant because of DeFi. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you, Cami, for being so generous with all the information that you have shared. I'm sure this is the most fun I've had so far in this journey.
Thank you.
And
it was a fun interview. I appreciate it.
Now, before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you one question, and that is, how many languages do you speak apart from English?
Well, just Spanish. I know I know a little bit of Portuguese and French, but like just to carry just like a very, very basic conversation. So I'd say just fluently Spanish and English.
Okay. So if you can tell us how was your experience on Digital Dunya in Spanish first, and why people should watch Digital Dunya.
Lo pasé muy bien acá hablando en Digital Dunya. Creo que la entrevista fue súper entretenida. Así que creo que cualquier persona en Crypto y Web3 debería mirar este podcast para aprender más de las personas que están construyendo y aportando a esta industria.
Thank you, Cami. I didn't understand any of it, but I am assuming it was all good.
Imagine I was saying I was trashing your show. No, it was all good. It was all good.
Thank you once again, Cami. I'm just going to do an outro and then we can finish off. Thank you, everyone, for being on this amazing journey with me. Cami has been such an amazing storyteller, and I love listening to stories. And there is no better stories for me than Web3, crypto, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. That's what connects me, and I know that's my contribution in a small way to bring these stories to life, record them, document them for new people joining the Web3 ecosystem. Because it's very important to know where we are going, where we are, but it is equally important where we came from. The roots are very important for anything in life. And I feel that roots of Web3, be it Bitcoin starting from 2008, Ethereum from 2014-15, to DeFi summer in 2020, and now, right? There's so much happened. And I'm so glad and grateful that I am part of this journey and being able to contribute in my small little way. So thank you for watching us. And thank you, Cami. A big thank. I can't thank you enough for being part of this show.
No, the pleasure is mine. I really enjoyed it. And thanks again for having me. And all the best with Digital Dunya.